Professor Trill's feathered crest flattened against his skull as he noticed 3 students lingering after class. They were huddled around a datapad, whispering excitedly. The professor recognized the troublemakers immediately. Lox, a 6-limbed Vexian with iridescent scales. Mora, a crystalline Corzite whose body refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. And Pell, a gelatinous blowban who changed colors with emotion, currently a bright, curious orange. "What are you 3 plotting now?" Professor Trill asked, his 4 eyes narrowing suspiciously. Lox jerked upright, quickly hiding the datapad behind his back. "Nothing, Professor." "We were just discussing the Galactic War lecture," Mora chimed in, her crystalline structure glinting nervously. Professor Trill sighed. The lecture specifically mentioned certain restricted topics, including humans. Pell rippled anxiously, turning a guilty shade of purple. "That's what we don't understand, Professor. Every species participates in the Galactic Defense Council except humans. The official records just say, Restriction Code 7XB, with no explanation." "That information is classified for a reason, Professor," Trill replied firmly. "But we're history majors," Lox protested. "How can we understand galactic politics without knowing about all participants, or why some are excluded?" Professor Trill gathered his teaching materials, his movements deliberately slow. "Some knowledge is dangerous. Restriction codes exist to protect the galactic community." As he left the classroom, he knew his warning would fall on deaf ears. Those 3 never could resist a mystery. "The archives should have something," Lox whispered as they huddled in the university library's forgotten basement level. The musty air smelled of ancient paper and digital decay. Mora connected to a dusty terminal. "I'll search for pre-restriction records. Maybe there's something from before the ban was implemented." Pell oozed nervously between shelves of physical storage units. "We could be expelled for this. Military history from the human era is strictly prohibited." "Which makes me even more curious," Lox replied, eyes gleaming. "An entire species banned from galactic warfare? There must be a reason beyond the humans or too fragile nonsense they feed us." Mora's crystals flashed with excitement. "Found something, a corrupted video file from the Battle of Proxima Station. It's fragmentary, but it might show humans in combat." They huddled around the screen as Mora bypassed several security protocols. The ancient file loaded slowly, displaying a chaotic battle scene aboard what appeared to be a space station. The footage was grainy and damaged, but they could make out various species engaged in combat. "There!" Lox pointed to a small group of bipedal creatures. "Those must be humans." The 3 students watched, confused at first. The humans seemed unimpressive, no natural armor, no extra limbs, no special abilities. They were using standard energy weapons like any other species. "I don't understand," Pell bubbled, turning a confused yellow. "They seem ordinary." Then, they saw it. A human soldier was cut off from his squad, cornered by 3 draconian warriors. The alien students expected the human to surrender. The draconians were twice his size with natural armor and venomous fangs. Instead, the human smiled. What followed made Pell turn a horrified white, Mora's crystals dim in shock, and Lox's scales flatten against his body. The human didn't just fight. He fought with a ferocity that defied logic. When his weapon was knocked away, he used a broken pipe. When that was lost, he used his bare hands. Even bleeding from multiple wounds, he kept fighting, kept advancing, his face locked in what the students would later learn was called a battle grin. The footage cut out just as the human, despite grievous injuries, was somehow gaining the upper hand against his larger opponents. "That's not possible," Mora whispered. Pell had turned a sickly green. "Did you see his eyes?" He wasn't afraid. He was enjoying it. Their research deepened over the following weeks. They discovered fragmented reports of human combat behaviors that seemed impossible. Humans fighting despite catastrophic injuries. Humans deliberately drawing enemy fire to protect squad mates. Humans refusing to retreat even against overwhelming odds. "It's called adrenaline," Lox explained as they reviewed their findings in their secret meeting spot. "Humans produce it naturally. It makes them temporarily stronger, faster, and nearly immune to pain." understand this psychological warfare? Mora asked, reviewing another document. Apparently humans don't just fight physically, Pell replied, rippling, thoughtfully. They use fear as a weapon. The way they smile while fighting. Many species found it more terrifying than their actual combat abilities. Lox scrolled through more data. There's a reference here to something called the Geneva Incident. It's heavily redacted, but it seems to be when the Galactic Council officially implemented Restriction Code 7XB. We need to find out what happened, Mora said firmly. Professor. Trill was not surprised when the three students appeared at his office door after hours. Their expressions told him everything. You found the records, he stated simply. Lox stepped forward. Professor, we need to understand. The Geneva incident? Sit down. Professor Trill interrupted, his tone unusually grave. He secured his office with a privacy field before continuing. What I'm about to tell you violates at least 7 galactic protocols. The students exchanged nervous glances. Humans aren't banned from warfare because they're weak, Professor Trill began. They're banned because they're terrifying. The Geneva incident was named after a human battle doctrine, something called Geneva Conventions, rules of war that humans created and then abandoned during that conflict. But the records say humans lost that battle, Pell noted, confused. Yes, they did, Professor Trill confirmed. But not before a single human battalion held off an entire Zorbian fleet for 3 days. The Zorbians eventually destroyed the human position entirely, but the cost was staggering. Over 80% casualties. That's why they're banned? Mora asked. Because they fight too well? Professor Trill's feathers trembled slightly. No. They're banned because after the battle, the Galactic Council reviewed the combat footage. The humans knew they couldn't win. They knew they would die. And yet they fought anyway, with a determination that terrified the Council. He paused, all 4 eyes, blinking solemnly. The Council realized that if humans ever unified their efforts in a major galactic conflict, they wouldn't fight to win. They would fight to the last person standing. And they would do so, smiling. The restriction isn't to protect humans from war. Lox finished the thought, his voice barely a whisper. It's to protect war from humans. The 3 students sat in stunned silence, finally understanding the truth hidden behind a simple classification code. Some species were too dangerous, not because they were powerful, but because they simply didn't know how to stop.